Rams have won the Super Bowl. Congratulations. Very close. Bengals do cover the spread. They were getting 4.5, and the game comes in under. But the Rams getting it done. Matthew Stafford, 283 and 3 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks. Cooper Kupp, he battled. It was not an easy trip for him. But when it counted, second half of the fourth quarter, Kupp making play after play, including a 4th-and-1 rush to keep a drive, the key drive, alive. Also caught 2 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, 263 and a touchdown. Joe Mixon threw a touchdown pass. Also at 72 rushing yards. Cincinnati had a great year, but the Rams can get fitted for the rings. We say hello and welcome in. Presented by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com to see how much you could save. With Joe Musso, I'm Eric Casillas. Our guys, our quarterback's Brady Quinn. Our NFL draft expert and NFL expert is Ryan Wilson. Brady, I'll start with you. What was the difference in this game in your mind that allowed LA to win?
Well, Cooper Kupp, and he should be MVP. Now, I don't know if he will end up getting it, but you mentioned that the 4th-and-1 rush for the first down to keep that drive going with Odell Beckham out and really Matt Stafford a little banged up too. That's who they went to. And time again, he was getting separation. He was making tough contested catches. And he comes up with a couple of touchdown passes, but obviously the one to go ahead. So Cooper Kupp, that was the difference in this game. I think the most controversial thing that happened, though, and really makes you wonder, is the pass interference called on Logan Wilson, or excuse me, defensive holding that was called. That, to me, I think we'd say, okay, there's enough there to make it a defensive holding call. The reality is, though, that call wasn't made the entire game. For the officials to intervene then and make that call, that helped lead to Cooper Kupp really making the difference in this football game when it was all said and done.
Yeah, Brady, great point about the Logan Wilson call that was there. But maybe Rams fans would say, well, go back to the first half on that or the beginning of the second half, the T. Higgins touchdown where Jalen Ramsey's face mask got turned sideways. There was no call there, so maybe that's makeup for that. But either way, the officials were pretty much out of that game to the end, so that's certainly something to note. But in terms of the player of the game, it's going to be Cooper Kupp. I think that, at least I agree with Brady on that. I'll be interested to hear what EK and Musso think about it. But I'll also give it to that front 4 and even front 7 if you wanted, the Rams, because for the first 35, 40 minutes, the Bengals' offensive line was somehow holding up. Duct tape and chicken wires, I like to say. And then things got crazy, and there was not much Joe Burrow could do. He got his knee twisted in all sorts of directions. We saw his girlfriend on the sidelines clearly upset. His mom seemed a little more certain that Burrow would bounce back, and he did, but he didn't seem to be quite the same player, and understandably so. They were getting after it. Aaron Donald got after it. Leonard Floyd got after it. Ernest Jones had a huge game, and I think that was the difference maker as much as what Cooper Kupp was able to do offensively.
You never have to pull my leg to give a wide receiver an accolade, so it's Cooper Kupp MVP or we riot, gentlemen. We'll see what that news is here momentarily. But we talked at halftime, Brady, about the job that we were doing, whether it was chicken wire and duct tape or whatever they were putting together on that front line there for Cincinnati. It was 1 sack in the first half, but 6th in the second half. 7 total sacks here for LA, and it really changed the momentum in this game. What did you see different by the front 7 out of LA in the second half? Were you seeing stunts? Were you just seeing breakdowns? What was different from the first 30 minutes?
It was a combination of all of it. Obviously there were some breakdowns from time to time. You saw that. And clearly just when Aaron Donald's in a one-on-one matchup, he's going to win that 9 times out of 10 in the NFL on any given Sunday. Schematically, though, really what they were doing is they were overloading one side of the offensive line. They were putting 3 defensive linemen or 2 D tackles and a defensive end to one side of the offensive line. And that really limited the ability of what that Bengals offensive line could do with their slide. And it caused a lot of one-on-one matchups that obviously we saw in the second half really just feasted on the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. The other thing you kind of mentioned is some of the stunts. Some of the pressure you saw, too, it's really taking those defensive ends and wrapping them back inside to push Joe Burrow off the spot, which he seemed ginger, especially after that knee injury, and he really couldn't move the football. But the reality is, too, and this may be a little bit debated or maybe seem like a hot take, Joe Burrow didn't play that great tonight. He missed some reads. He missed some throws. He seemed at times a little bit shaken up. He seemed a little bit off for the Joe Burrow that we've at least seen throughout the course of this season. And I thought at times he was holding on to the football too much and almost too apt to take a sack instead of either dumping it down or just getting rid of the football and throwing the football away to try to save some of those sack yards and, adding those yards to a punt, even if it was on 3rd and long. Taking some of those sacks to me, again, it's a safe play. He's not forcing the ball into harm's way, but at the same time, he could have saved some of those negative plays, just threw the football away.
Ryan Wilson, the officials will get some discussion here. I don't necessarily think the whistle went one way or the other because, let's face it, Cincinnati basically got a free touchdown that they shouldn't have got when you got the face mask against Jalen Ramsey and a score there. There was the play at the end that Brady's brought up. Was it holding? I didn't love the call there. Give me a grade overall for the officials, and I'll say just, personally, I didn't think one side got the better whistle, but I didn't think the officials were great. Your thoughts?
Oh, interesting, because usually you give me a hard time for being the chemistry professor. I'm going A-. Brady talked about the Logan Wilson hold that wasn't, and then there was also the Jalen Ramsey face mask turned around no call, but it evened out. And that's the thing. Both those calls didn't favor one team. They favored one team on one play and the other team at the end of the game there. So I'm fine with the way the officials did it. I wish they had called this play here that we're watching and not call the Logan Wilson one, and we see where we wash out there. But I think it was a fantastic football game, and it wasn't necessarily pretty at times. Brady talked about how Joe Burrow struggled. Matthew Stafford didn't look great. Cooper Kupp stepped up. The defenses on both sides played really well. But I think the officials, for the most part, for 95% of the snaps, weren't part of the conversation. And I would imagine Roger Goodell's taking a sigh of relief at that because we saw some pretty terrible officiating throughout the year and even at times during the playoffs. I think for the most part they got it right. A- is where I'm at on this, EK.
Brady?
What would really be just this. We could talk about the play early in the game, T. Higgins and Jalen Ramsey. The reality is that's how the majority of the game was played. And I think my issue with the officiating this entire season has been just that, the inconsistencies of how games are, how crews are week to week, game to game, how things are officiated in the NFL. And I think this is another example of that where for the entire game, they let these two teams play. Very minimal penalties called. And then we get down to the final stretch, and all of a sudden you see a questionable call, which leads to another defensive pass interference, which gives another opportunity for the Rams to go ahead and win that football game. I think that's my biggest gripe with it. If you had to have me give them a grade, I'd say maybe a C at best, only because I think if you're really being technical, should have been a lot more penalties called in it. And then I think if you're really being harsh on them, they should have intervened in the end. If they didn't in the entire game, they let these guys play.
Guys, these types of games, these types of moments, there's always the what-if factor. And if LA doesn't come away with the win, it's the first down play where Stafford misses the crossing route to Jefferson, just airmails one. He doesn't have to live with that what-if. What's the what-if play on the Cincinnati side of things here, Brady? The one that Joe Burrow's just going to be burning out the tape on, saying, what if we hit that one?
It's tough to go back and think one particular play. Honestly, there's a number of throws. I think even just starting off the fourth and one to begin the game. He has T. Higgins wide open on the sidelines, trying to force it back inside to Jamar Chase. He gets batted down, knocked down. You turn over the ball there on possessions. I think there's a number of those plays you saw a couple times, especially across the middle, seeing T. Higgins coming open, Burrow getting his eyes off him, feeling the pressure, feeling the rush. So give credit to the Rams. But really, there's opportunities to make some of those throws, make some of those plays. I think when he comes back and watches this tape, he's going to be frustrated with his performance. It just, again, in the moments where we've seen him step up and act very calm and poised, I thought at times tonight he did get flustered by that rush.
Yeah, was shook a little bit early, then the rush gets to him in the second half. We sort of saw the results of it. What about you, Ryan, as you take a look at this game script and we're going through the second half, some of those plays, Boyd did have the drop, his first of the season. Now, whether or not he would have gotten the first down is another conversation there. You're sub 50. You're probably still punting if he doesn't get the first. Is that the play you point to go somewhere else?
Yeah, like Brady, I was racking my brain trying to think about something in the first half that you could point to, and I think it is the Tyler Boyd play. It would have been bang, bang. You're right. It would have been 9 of 10 yards, and Boyd would have gotten that extra yard. But as you mentioned, Joe, he hadn't dropped a pass all season. What are we doing? I understand the magnitude of the situation, but you're sure-handed. You're the slot guy. You made this play a million times, and he just peeks up there, and it just doesn't happen. Now, does that change the tenor of the game? Maybe. You can see the score there, 20-16. The clock's moving, and I don't know if Joe Burrow will go back to a particular play, maybe some of those sacks that Brady's alluded to, but I think that Tyler Boyd play will certainly keep Tyler Boyd up. And I'll just add this, and I would actually be interested to hear what Brady thinks about this, but the throw that got Odell Beckham hurt late in the second quarter, that is 100% a bad throw by Matthew Stafford on a pass that he has to make all the time. Now, you're not going to expect someone to suffer a knee injury and miss the football game, but if he hits him in stride, Odell Beckham's probably still running. And it's those little things that add up over the course of a game, over the course of a season, that can come back to bite you. Obviously, it worked out for them there, but that ball's just a hair behind him on a little shallow that he's thrown 1,000 times, and you just wonder what could have been. And one more thing. Get rid of field turf. It's the worst thing ever invented. You're billionaires. Put grass on the field for crying out loud.
Let's wrap it up, sort of our initial discussion this way. Better chance to come back, whether it be next year or the year after. The Rams are older. They don't have any picks. They may lose some guys, but no more Brady in the NFC. I don't know what's going on with the Saints. And in the AFC, yes, since he's young, but you got to deal with Mahomes and Josh Allen. Better chance to come back to this game next year, Brady Quinn.
I think it's the Bengals. Look, they're the younger team. They're the team that got here really no one expected them to. They still have another draft, another offseason to build around Joe Burrow. And you looked at this team, and when you stacked them up or compared them to the Los Angeles Rams, you're saying, what do they have that the Rams don't? Really, only Joe Burrow. So I think they'll continue to build. They'll have an opportunity to get back to this. You make some valid points about the difficulty of navigating through the NFC. But, look, maybe Tom Brady comes back. We don't necessarily know that. There's a rumor now he may be out to it. And plus, for the Rams, not only could they lose players, they're going to lose their offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell. He's going to become the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. You got a vacancy there. And there's a chance that, look, what we heard about Sean McVay, maybe he steps away after winning a Super Bowl now and goes into a broadcast booth. That's been kind of thrown out there. So I think there's a lot up in the air for this Rams team heading into the offseason. They should celebrate all they want right now because I'm not sure when they're going to be back here again.
No, I think Brady's right. He talked about the reports about Sean Payton, about Sean McVay, who would follow Sean Payton. Aaron Donald report out there that he might retire if they win as a 30-year-old. That would be something else. And the salary cap implications, Von Miller is only in that one-year deal, so they'll have to sort some things out. Les Snead has done a fantastic job intentionally giving away these draft picks to build this team, so hats off to him. But I think Brady's right. It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Then the question becomes, as quarterback in your year two, this feels comfortable to success. How often or how do you sort of overcome this loss in the final game of the season, and can you get back there quickly? The division is going to be tough. No Big Ben, so that's good. Lamar Jackson will be back. We'll see where Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski are in their journey, but it's not going to be easy. Mac Jones will be a year better in New England. There will be some other young teams, the Bills, of course, and that'll be their challenge. But I think it's going to be the Bengals, and I don't want to say it seems like an easy choice over the Rams because the Rams just won the Super Bowl.
I go the other way.
But they're younger.
I'm shocked. I thought you were going to go the other way. I mean, listen, I don't have to deal with Mahomes. I don't have to deal with Josh Allen. I mean, if I'm the Rams, if Rodgers doesn't come back to Green Bay, I'm not sure who's doing anything in the NFC. They might be the favorites. But the Bengals, I mean, I got to deal with Lamar Jackson in my own division. I respect what you say, and that's why I think it's, debate. I'm glad you guys agreed, and I think your answers are both, of course, well thought out, but surprised me.
LA's division, tough as well. A lot of work to be done to get to this moment, and this game we love continues to be the best soap opera there is, gentlemen. And for the second straight season, quarterback goes to a new team in a new city and wins a Super Bowl on his home field. Brady didn't need it for his legacy. Stafford needed this game. Ryan, as you now reassess what we think of Matthew Stafford, the quarterback, put a period at the end of the sentence, what does that sentence read?
Well, first off, Musso, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm saying, hey, Kyler Murray, the Super Bowl's in Arizona next year. Calm down. It'll be all good. Don't worry about it. But what does this mean for Matthew Stafford? We know our buddy Will Brinson has been all over the Matthew Stafford's going to the Hall of Fame if he wins this game. And as we've been talking about the last few minutes here, he didn't have a great performance. I don't know if this is enough to get him over the hump in terms of the Hall of Fame situation. This has certainly improved his demeanor, no doubt, and even his chances, if we're being realistic about the Hall of Fame. 0-3 in the playoffs prior to this year. Now he's 4-0 if you include the Super Bowl. Had one interception coming into tonight's game, had two tonight. One was an arm punt, fourth down sort of situation. The other one was an unlucky tip pass to Ben Skoranek. It happens. But he made a huge throw at the end on that back shoulder to Cooper Kupp to put them in the lead and keep them in the lead, and that's certainly noteworthy. And Matthew Stafford, by all accounts, is a great guy. He deserves all this, and I'm happy for him. I just don't know if we're quite yet ready to have that Canton conversation.
Yeah, I think it helps build his resume, right? Anytime you look at the stats that he's been able to put together over his long career, and now he's got a Super Bowl to go along with it, he's definitely going to have a case for it. I think the hard thing is would you ever view him as a top 5 quarterback in the league throughout the course of his career? Probably not, or maybe it's been seldom if you would. So I think that's the hard thing about it. But again, he'll have the stats. He's got the Super Bowl now. We know that's part of the criteria. I think the interesting thing about what you're bringing up, though, EK, and Musso back in studio is this. I mean, you're now seeing 2 years in a row a quarterback leave his team, go somewhere else, win a Super Bowl. If I'm Russell Wilson, if I'm Deshaun Watson, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm looking around and saying, hey, I can do this. I can go somewhere else and in 1 year's time go win a Super Bowl with another team. I think if you want out, you're going to see guys more than ever, those veteran guys that I think have either won a Super Bowl or viewed as some of the top in the league, say, I'm going to go to a place where I feel like I have a shot of winning it and not hang around if things haven't been working out of late.
Well done, gentlemen. Excellent analysis, as we just knew you would. Great job breaking down the game. The Rams, your champions. So, the Los Angeles Rams. That's right. First time ever. They won as the St. Louis Rams when they beat Tennessee. That was back in '99. But you see now, the Rams have gotten it done. And as a franchise, the Rams are 2-3.